AITA for ditching my family at the airport and flying to Hawaii to avoid babysitting? My name is Sarah, and I am 32 years old. Remember the trip to the mountains? I warned at the family barbecue. 4 years ago, that trip turned me into a full-time babysitter while everyone else had fun. Now they wanted me to use my first vacation in 3 years to go to Cancun with them and their 5 kids. It'll be different, my brother Mark swore, but something about his smile didn't convince me. A week later, a deleted message from my sister confirmed it. It was the same trap, only with a more expensive destination. So while they packed for Mexico, I packed for Costa Rica. It had all started with an email. I sighed with relief as I clicked send on the time-off request to my boss. 3 years. It had been 3 whole years since I took a real vacation. All my energy had gone into climbing the corporate ladder at the Walsh marketing agency. The promotion to senior account manager had finally come through last month, and now I could breathe. 10 whole days, I whispered to myself, searching for beach destinations on my laptop. The thought of sand between my toes and nothing more pressing than deciding which cocktail to order next made me dizzy with pleasure. My phone vibrated with my mother's weekly reminder. Family barbecue. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. Don't be late. The traditional Sunday barbecues at my parents' house were non-negotiable. My mother and father insisted on keeping the family together, and truth be told, I enjoyed seeing everyone despite the chaos that always ensued with 5 children running around. The next day, I pulled into my parents' driveway behind my brother Mark's minivan. I could already hear the commotion inside. Kids squealing, adults talking over each other. My sister Jessica's SUV was parked on the street, crammed with car seats and children's sports equipment. There she is, my mother exclaimed when I came in to hug her. We were just talking about summer plans. Mark waved from the couch where he was trying to control his youngest son Tyler, who was jumping on the cushions. His wife, my sister-in-law, was deep in conversation with Jessica's husband, my brother-in-law, in the corner. Meanwhile, my sister Jessica chased her toddler down the hallway. Sarah, can you grab Matthew? Mark yelled as soon as he saw me. He's about to rip down the curtains. And there it was. I hadn't even put my purse down, and I was already being recruited for babysitting duty. Mark and my sister-in-law had 3 kids. Matthew, who was 7, Emma, who was 5, and Tyler, who was 3. Jessica had 2. Chloe, who was 4, and Liam, who was 2. And somehow, being the single childless sister meant I was perpetually on call as the default nanny. Let him rip them down, I joked, although I still moved to intercept my nephew. Maybe then they'll finally replace those ugly things. Everyone, dinner is ready, my father announced, coming out of the kitchen with a platter of barbecue. We all rushed to get the kids settled in a chaotic dance of booster seats, sippy cups, and negotiations over who would sit where. Eventually, when everyone was settled and the food was being passed around, I decided to share my news. Well, I finally requested my vacation time, I announced between bites of mashed potatoes. 10 days starting in 3 weeks. I'm thinking of somewhere tropical. The table went silent for a moment before erupting into excited chatter. What perfect timing, my father exclaimed. We were just talking about a family vacation this summer. Mark leaned forward. We've been planning a trip to Cancun. The kids have been begging to go to the theme parks. We should all go together. My mother clapped her hands. Sarah, you have to come with us. I froze mid-bite. This was not how I had pictured my first real vacation in years, surrounded by family with the inevitable responsibility of watching the kids while everyone else relaxed. I don't know, I hesitated. I was looking forward to some alone time. Alone time. Jessica looked at me as if I had suggested vacationing on Mars. That's so depressing, Sarah. Vacations are meant to be shared. Do you guys remember that trip to the mountains 4 years ago? I countered. I spent the entire time chasing after Mark's kids while everyone else went hiking. That was different, my sister-in-law chimed in. The kids were younger. They're still kids, I pointed out. Sarah, my mother reached over to pat my hand. We worry about you being alone all the time. It's not healthy. I'm not alone all the time, I defended myself. I have friends, colleagues. But family is different, my father interrupted. Besides, when was the last time we all went somewhere together? 4 years ago, I repeated. when I ended up being the full-time babysitter. You're exaggerating, Mark said with a dismissive wave. We all pitched in. I raised an eyebrow at him. Really? Because I clearly remember being stuck in the cabin with the kids, while you and your wife went ziplining. We promise it won't be like that this time, Jessica said enthusiastically. We'll take turns with the kids. You won't have to watch them at all if you don't want to. I looked around the table at their hopeful faces. Even the kids seemed excited, although they were more interested in the prospect of a vacation than in my participation. We've already looked at hotels, my mother added. There's a gorgeous resort in Cancun with pools and activities for the kids. We already booked our flights and rooms. We leave in 3 weeks on Friday. You should get on the same flight. I sighed, feeling the weight of their expectations. Every rational part of me screamed to stick to my original plan for a peaceful solo vacation. But as the evening progressed and more details about the trip emerged, like the beachfront hotel, the nearby attractions, and the promises that I wouldn't be forced to babysit, I found myself wavering. Maybe they meant it this time. Maybe they had realized how they had taken advantage of me before. All right, I finally said as we cleared the plates. I'll book my ticket and room when I get home tonight. The cheers that erupted made me smile despite my reservations. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad after all. As soon as I got home, I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto the couch with my laptop balanced on my knees. 2 hours and several frustrated sighs later, I had booked my hotel room at the same resort as my family, but there was a problem with the flights. The one my family had booked was already full. The best I could do was a flight leaving the next day. I called my mother the next morning on my way to work. I got the same hotel, I told her. But I couldn't get a seat on your flight. I'll be arriving on Saturday instead of Friday. Oh, what a shame, my mother said, though she didn't sound too disappointed. But at least you'll be there. We'll save you a spot on the beach. The following 3 weeks were a whirlwind of wrapping up projects at work and preparing for the vacation. Strangely, neither Mark nor Jessica dropped their kids off at my house during this time, something that had become an almost weekly occurrence before. Usually, one of them would text me with some variation of a work emergency asking, "Can you watch the kids for a few hours?" Which inevitably turned into an entire evening of babysitting. But now nothing. Radio silence on the childcare front. Maybe they really have changed, I told myself one night while folding swimsuits into my suitcase. The thought was both refreshing and suspicious. 3 years of being the family's daycare option had made me skeptical of sudden behavioral changes. With only a week left before departure, I was at my kitchen table making a packing list. Sunscreen, hat, beach reads, charging cables, vacation essentials. My phone buzzed with a WhatsApp notification. It was a message from Jessica, but the preview text made my blood run cold. Mark, Sarah doesn't suspect a thing. She actually believes us about. I didn't open the message immediately. My thumb hovered over the notification, my mind racing. What didn't I suspect? What was I supposed to believe? Before I could decide whether to open it, another notification popped up. This message was deleted. Too late. I had already taken a screenshot of the notification. I stared at the captured text, which now revealed more of the message. Mark, Sarah doesn't suspect a thing. She actually believes us about not having to watch the kids. I can't believe she fell for it again. Mom and Dad are totally on board with the plan too. We'll all be able to relax while she gets stuck with the brats. The message cut off there, but it was enough. My family, my entire family, had been conspiring to use me as a free babysitter the whole time. The promises and the reassurances that things would be different this time were all lies. I felt a wave of anger rise within me, followed by a strange sense of calm. So this is how things were going to be. Well, two can play at this game. With cold determination, I grabbed my phone and called the hotel. "Hello, I need to cancel a reservation," I said, reciting my confirmation number. Then I canceled my flight to Cancun. The airline representative offered me a partial refund, which I gladly accepted. "And I would like to book a new flight, please," I added, "to Costa Rica." After handling all the logistics, I leaned back with a satisfied smile spreading across my face. For once, I wasn't going to be the responsible, reliable Sarah who always put everyone else's needs before her own. This time I was choosing myself. The days passed slowly, and the Saturday barbecue arrived. I showed up at my parents' house with a plastered-on smile, curious to see how deep their deception ran. "There's our world traveler," my father greeted me with a hug. "All packed and ready for Cancun?" "Almost," I lied smoothly. "Just a few last-minute things to buy." Mark looked up from where he was pretending to wipe chocolate off Tyler's face. "The kids can't wait to build sandcastles with their favorite aunt." I caught the meaningful look he exchanged with my sister-in-law, a look I would have missed if I hadn't been paying attention. "I'm looking forward to it too," I replied, matching his fake enthusiasm with my own. During dinner, I noticed the knowing glances between my siblings and my parents. Little smirks when they thought I wasn't looking. Comments about how much fun we would all have together. Every single one strengthened my resolve. The evening ended, and I said my goodbyes with promises to see them all in Cancun soon. Little did they know what I had planned. Friday arrived, and my phone lit up with messages from my family. "We just checked into the hotel. It's beautiful. The beach is amazing. We can't wait for you to get here tomorrow. The kids are asking when Aunt Sarah is coming." I replied with a simple smiley face emoji and finished packing my real vacation essentials for Costa Rica. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear. I locked up my apartment, rolled my suitcase out to the waiting cab, and headed to the airport. Not to Cancun but to paradise. My paradise where no one expected me to be a free babysitter. As the plane took off, I switched my phone to airplane mode. I leaned back in my seat and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I was doing something purely for myself. The flight to Costa Rica was long but peaceful. I dozed, read, and daydreamed about the beaches waiting for me. By the time we landed, I was ready for my real vacation to begin. My hotel was everything the website had promised. Palm trees swaying in the gentle breeze, the scent of tropical flowers in the air, and the sound of waves crashing nearby. "Welcome to Costa Rica," the receptionist said as she handed me my room key. "Is this your first time visiting us?" "It is," I replied with a genuine smile. "And I have a feeling it won't be my last." I didn't even wait to unpack. Within 20 minutes of arriving at my room, I had put on my swimsuit and was heading to the beach. The warm coastal sun on my skin and the soft sand between my toes was everything I had dreamed of. Hours later, completely relaxed and slightly sunburned, I returned to my room and finally turned on my phone. As expected, it blew up with notifications, missed calls, voicemails, and increasingly frantic text messages. "Sarah, where are you? Your flight should have landed hours ago. We're at the airport. You missed your flight. Sarah, answer your phone." I smiled to myself as I typed a simple reply to the family group chat. "Having a wonderful time in Costa Rica. Please don't disturb my vacation. I'll see you all when I get back." I hit send, turned off my phone again, and went to bed, falling asleep to the sound of the ocean and not a single crying child. The next morning I woke up to the gentle sound of waves and birds singing outside my window, not screaming children or family drama. I stretched luxuriously in my king-size bed, savoring the moment of peace before checking my phone. Unsurprisingly, it was a disaster zone. 37 missed calls, dozens of texts, and several voicemails. The text messages had evolved from confusion to anger overnight. "Sarah, this isn't funny. Where are you? The kids are disappointed. How could you do this? You're being incredibly selfish right now." I rolled my eyes and scrolled through the rest without replying. But when my mother called again while I was having my morning coffee on the balcony, I decided to answer. "Sarah Marie." My mother's voice was shrill with anger. "What do you think you're doing?" "Good morning to you too, Mother," I replied calmly. "I'm enjoying my vacation in Costa Rica." "This is completely unacceptable," she yelled. "You ruined our family vacation. Your brother and sister are furious. The kids are asking where you are." "Let me stop you right there," I interrupted. "I know about the plan." "What plan?" Her voice faltered slightly. "The plan to use me as a free babysitter while the rest of you had fun," I said. "Jessica accidentally sent me a message meant for Mark. I saw everything." There was a pause, then a deep sigh. "You're overreacting," my mother finally said. "We just didn't want to bother you with the details beforehand." "Is that so terrible?" "Details?" I laughed humorlessly. You mean the detail that I would be stuck watching 5 kids while everyone else relaxed? That's not a detail, Mother. That's taking advantage of me. Again. You're single and childless, Sarah. My mother's voice turned stern. You should understand how hard it is for Mark and Jessica. They deserve a break. I gripped my phone tighter, feeling the familiar anger rising. So do I. I've been working nonstop for 3 years to get this promotion. And it's not my responsibility to raise their kids. They chose to have children. Not me. Family helps family, my mother insisted. No, Mother, what you're describing isn't help, it's exploitation. And the fact that you all plotted behind my back makes it worse. You betrayed my trust. Now you're just being dramatic. Am I? I interrupted. Because from where I'm standing, my entire family conspired to ruin my vacation by tricking me into being an unpaid nanny. That seems pretty significant to me. Sarah, I'm done talking about this. I'm done too, I said firmly. I'm going to enjoy my vacation, my real vacation, without any of you. We can discuss this when I get back if I feel like it. Don't you dare hang up on me, young lady. I ended the call and blocked their numbers just in case. My hands were shaking with anger and adrenaline, but I also felt strangely liberated. For once, I had stood up for myself instead of caving to family pressure. The rest of the day was wonderful. I went snorkeling, lounged by the pool with a light novel, and treated myself to an elegant dinner with a sunset view. Not once did I have to cut anyone's food, wipe a runny nose, or break up a fight over toys. That night, I unblocked my family's numbers, curious to see their reaction. New messages had piled up, all variations of the same theme. I was selfish, I had ruined their vacation, I had let the kids down. One message from Mark particularly caught my attention. The kids won't stop whining, and my wife and I can't enjoy a single minute alone. This is all your fault. I couldn't help but laugh. There it was in black and white. The real reason they wanted me there. Free childcare, plain and simple. For the next week, I lived in a bubble of perfect relaxation. I hiked to waterfalls, took a helicopter tour over the jungle, learned to surf, and spent countless hours simply lying on the beach. Every night I checked my messages, amused by my family's increasingly desperate attempts to make me feel guilty. By the end of my vacation, the tone of their messages had started to shift. There were fewer accusations and more attempts at reconciliation. My mother sent a long text about how they should have been more honest. My father called and left a voicemail saying I was missed at the Sunday barbecue. Even Mark sent a half-hearted apology, although it still included a complaint about how difficult the vacation had been with the kids. I packed my bags on the last day with mixed emotions. Part of me was sad to leave this paradise, but another part felt stronger, more resolute. I had drawn a boundary, and even though it had caused conflict, it felt right. The flight home gave me time to think about what would come next. Would I go back to being the family doormat? Would I cut them off completely? Neither option felt right. When my plane landed and I turned my phone back on, there were new messages waiting for me. We're all coming to see you tomorrow. We need to talk, please. Give us a chance to apologize in person. The kids miss Aunt Sarah. I smiled grimly. They still didn't get it, did they? It wasn't about missing a vacation or a babysitting opportunity. It was about years of being taken for granted, of my time and energy being considered less valuable than everyone else's simply because I didn't have children. Back in my apartment, I unpacked slowly, savoring the memories of my solo adventure, and bracing myself for whatever confrontation tomorrow would bring. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of family conflict. I had found my voice and I intended to use it. The next day, right on time, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw my parents, Mark and Jessica, all standing in the hallway looking solemn. No spouses, no kids, just the core family. I took a deep breath and opened the door, but only as far as the security chain allowed. "Sarah, please," my mother said, her voice softer than usual. "We just want to talk." I stood firm behind my partially open door. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that. For years, all of you have treated me like free labor. My time doesn't matter, my plans don't matter. All because I don't have kids." "That's not true," Jessica protested weakly. "Really?" I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshot of her accidental message. "This says otherwise." Their faces fell as they read the damning evidence. Mark muttered something under his breath, and Jessica looked away, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "We have a serious problem with what you did," my mother said, trying to regain control of the situation. "You should feel guilty about it." I laughed in disbelief. "Are you kidding? You're the ones who should feel guilty. You lied to me and tried to manipulate me." "But you deliberately misled us about your plans," my father argued. "We were sick with worry when you didn't show up in Cancun." "I learned from the best," I replied coldly. "Look, I'm not going to stand here arguing in my doorway. I'm taking a break from all of you for a while. I need space." "Space?" My mother looked shocked. "From your family? Sarah, that is ridiculous." "What's ridiculous is how you're still trying to make me look like the bad guy here. I'm tired of being taken advantage of. I'm sick of being treated as if I have less value because I'm single and childless." "We never said that," Mark protested. "You didn't have to say it. You proved it with your actions. Every time you dropped your kids off without notice, every time you volunteered me to babysit without asking, every time you made plans assuming I would be available. And then this?" I waved my phone again. This was the final straw. They exchanged uncomfortable glances. No one seemed to know what to say. "Sarah, please," my mother tried again. "Let us in. We can work this out." I shook my head. "Not today. I'll decide when and if I'm ready to talk. Right now, I just need you all to respect my decision." With that, I closed the door completely, ignoring their whispered conference in the hallway. 10 minutes later, I heard them leave. The weeks that followed were strangely peaceful. I went to work, met friends for dinner, and took weekend trips to nearby towns. All without the constant interruption of family obligations, without last-minute babysitting requests, without guilt trips for missing the Sunday barbecue. At first, my phone was flooded with messages, apologies that felt hollow, attempts to downplay what had happened, and even some trying to shift the blame back onto me. I read them all, but I didn't reply. After 3 weeks of silence, things began to change. A bouquet of flowers arrived at my apartment with a card from Mark. "I'm so sorry for taking you for granted." No strings attached, no expectations, just an apology. A few days later, a handwritten letter from Jessica arrived, acknowledging how selfish she had been, and how she had never considered my perspective. The most surprising change came from my parents. Instead of demanding that I return to the family fold, they sent a simple text. "We miss you, but we understand you need time. We are here when you are ready." No guilt trips, no manipulation, just respect for my boundaries. It was so unlike them that I almost called right away, but I held back. This wasn't just about one incident or one vacation. It was about reshaping our entire family dynamic. One evening, as I sat on my balcony enjoying a glass of wine and the sunset, I reflected on how much had changed. For years, I had defined myself primarily through my role in the family. Reliable Sarah, always available Sarah, Sarah who puts everyone else first. Breaking free from that identity had been terrifying but necessary. My phone vibrated with a text from my mother. "Your father and I have been talking a lot about how we've treated you. We're truly sorry, Sarah. We never meant to make you feel less valued because you don't have kids. Your life and your time are just as important as Mark's or Jessica's. We see that now." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. Standing up for myself had not only changed my family relationships, it had changed me. I was setting better boundaries at work too, leaving on time instead of staying late every night, and speaking up in meetings when I had ideas. That weekend, I drove past my parents' house around the time the Sunday barbecue would normally take place. I didn't stop, but I felt a pang of nostalgia mixed with apprehension. Despite everything, they were still my family. A week later, I finally replied to my mother's text. "I appreciate your apology. I'm not ready for the Sunday barbecue yet, but maybe we could meet for coffee this weekend. Just you and me." Her response was immediate. "Name the time and place. I'll be there." Our coffee date was awkward at first, but we gradually found our way into an honest conversation. My mother admitted that they had all taken advantage of me and promised things would be different in the future. "We miss you," she said with wet eyes, "but we respect that you need things to change." "I miss all of you too," I admitted, "but I won't go back to the way things were." "We don't want that either," Mark and Jessica assured me later. In fact, they had started using real babysitters whom they actually paid. 2 months after my Costa Rica vacation, I agreed to attend the Sunday barbecue again. The atmosphere was different, less chaotic, more respectful. Mark and my sister-in-law managed their own kids instead of expecting me to do it. And Jessica actually asked if I minded helping with Liam's lunch, rather than just assuming. It was not perfect, but it was progress. And as I drove home that night, I realized that sometimes you have to break something to rebuild it properly. Our family was healing, but most importantly, they were finally treating me like an equal. Comment. I hope this video has given you a moment to reflect on your own worth and the relationships in your life. Setting boundaries with the people we love can feel incredibly difficult, but it is a necessary act of self-respect. True kindness means helping others without letting them take advantage of your gentle nature. Your time and energy are deeply valuable, regardless of your relationship status or life choices. Sometimes we have to step away from old dynamics to create the space needed for real healing and growth. Choosing peace over pleasing others is not a selfish act. It is simply the first step in building healthier connections based on mutual respect and equal responsibility. I encourage you to evaluate your own life and bravely draw lines that protect your mental well-being. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I wish you all the courage to choose your own happiness and inner peace. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.